Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Vikings win it! Pass for Hopkins. Oh, my goodness. Did he catch that? Did he catch that? That's the touchdown catch of the year, if that's good.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
My bold prediction for the week is from the Rams-Seahawks game. I'm going to go Todd Gurley has 200 all-purpose yards in this one.
Here's a bold prediction. The Saints are going to beat the Ravens, and Breeze is going to get that record, but the Ravens are still not going to let up a second-half touchdown.
Welcome to 4th and Long, your weekly NFL talk show here on Com Radio. Now, here are your hosts, Jason Marcus and DJ Bauer.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and for the final time this semester, welcome to 4th and Long here on Com Radio. I'm your host, Jason Marcus, alongside me, Francesco DeFalco and DJ Bauer, and we are about to talk about Week 14 in the NFL. But before we do that, I got to say hi to my co-host here. DJ, I'll start with you. How you doing today?
Doing pretty good. As always, ready to talk some football on a Wednesday, one of the few days a week where they do not play football.
Yeah, could not be better timing, but yeah, absolutely excited to talk about football as well. Francesco, how about you? How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been a couple weeks since I've been in here. I've been itching to get back, and there's a lot to talk about over this week and the past couple weeks, so I'm ready to get down to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a while since we've seen you, Francesco. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving break and not too bad of a week back since we've been, resuming school and whatnot. But as you said and alluded to, it has been a crazy week here in the NFL. The biggest story, I guess, and there's a lot of big stories this week, which is kind of a rarity, I would say. I feel like every week we come on here and we're trying to struggle for what are the big headlines, but we've got a fair share of them, but none bigger right now than the firing of now former Packers head coach and Super Bowl winning head coach Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy fired after the Packers lost to the Arizona Cardinals, a top 5 worst team in the NFL. Many people saw this coming, but I think a lot of people were surprised at the timing of it. DJ, you are a Packers fan.
I'm not a Packers fan.
That's right. You're a Steelers and Seahawks fan. For some reason, I thought you were a Packers fan.
Matt Fryler's a Packers
Fryler's
fan.
the Packers fan. I apologize. But nonetheless, a football fan.
Yes.
What was your reaction to the McCarthy firing?
At first, whenever I heard he was in the hot seat a couple weeks ago, I was kind of surprised. I was like, this guy won you a Super Bowl. It seems like him and Aaron Rodgers have kind of been this dynamic duo for years. But now that I'm seeing the Packers struggle, I can understand it. Because this is a team that perhaps has lofty expectations too often. It seems like every year the media is touting a Packers-Patriots Super Bowl, and it still has never happened, and it will never happen. Get it out of your head. Stop predicting a Packers-Patriots Super Bowl. But point still stands. I understand it now that Mike McCarthy is gone. Just losing to the Cardinals like that, that's bad. I had in my predictions that the Packers would easily win this game. They lose to a team that has a rookie quarterback, that has a terrible offensive line, and has been absolutely garbage on offense all year. And they go out and lose at home. That's pretty much as big a nail as a coffin as you can get. So I understand the firing of McCarthy now.
What about you, Francesco? What was your reaction to this firing? Because there's a lot of controversy around this, not necessarily in the firing itself, but the way and the time that it happened. You don't let McCarthy finish out the season, which is an absolute rarity. He's only one of 2 Super Bowl winning head coaches in the modern era to not make it through an entire year before being fired. So what was your reaction to the firing?
I remember seeing something over the summer. It said something like that McCarthy and Rodgers together were completely scrapping the old Packers offensive playbook and recreating it from scratch, starting it fresh, trying to give Aaron Rodgers something new to work with an offense that has been play calling wise stagnant for a long time. And I remember when I heard that, I thought, man, if the Packers go through the same thing they've been going through recently, McCarthy's probably going to be out. I was really surprised that they didn't let him finish out the season. But at the same time, if there was ever a time to do it in the middle of the season, it would be right after a home loss to one of the worst teams in the NFL. So it was surprising that they didn't let him finish it out. I'm not very surprised. I thought that this was kind of coming ever since the summer. I thought back when the Packers were winning games purely off of Aaron Rodgers playing backyard football, I thought that was I thought that this was, coming eventually. So, if it finally happened, loss that was really hard on the Packers. So.
What about you, DJ, though? What was your take on this? Do you feel like they owed it to him to at least finish off the season, or do you think they made the right call here, firing him right after this awful loss?
I'm always a little bit wary of getting rid of your head coach before the season is over, just because you don't know how it's going to end. If you fire your head coach, that basically is the move that says you're throwing in the towel. I can't remember the last team that fired their head coach midseason and then went on to make the playoffs or anything. So I think this is more like a releasing frustration move here and possibly appeasing the fans. We talked about our good old friend Matt Freiler. He's been calling for his head for a couple weeks now, and you can tell that he's satisfied. So I think that's really what it is here. Even if McCarthy stays the rest of the season, I think that they're going to finish just about the same as if he had stayed there. So maybe you don't fire him and just keep him till the end of the year and release him then. I think this is really like a PR move. Just say, get rid of him. Our fans will be happier.
So Mike McCarthy officially out in Green Bay for the time being. Offensive coordinator Joe Philbin takes over as the interim head coach. But you got to believe for Green Bay that's not the direction that they want to go in for the foreseeable future. So if you had to put a name on it, who do you think is the most likely candidate to take Mike McCarthy's spot in Green Bay next season? DJ, I'll go with you.
I don't know about most likely candidate, but I have heard the name Lincoln Riley thrown out there a couple times. I don't think that he's going to leave Oklahoma just because of what he's done for that program, being in the college football playoff. But I don't know. Anything's possible. It's the NFL.
What about you, Francesco? You have any thoughts on this, on who you think could potentially take over as the new head coach for the Packers?
I don't think, Lincoln Riley would be obviously a great option. I don't think he's leaving Oklahoma unless he gets a job with his former Oklahoma quarterback, who we might talk about later. But I think somebody like McDaniels, obviously there's kind of a bad rep after he left the Colts at the altar last offseason. But, he's clearly the type of guy that could really help Rodgers. And apparently there are some lower-ranked coaches who have been saying that if he goes to Green Bay, they'll join him. So, I think signs might point to that at the beginning of this offseason.
Now, obviously, Mike McCarthy, one of two head coaches to be fired so far this season. But there are far more coaches that are currently on the proverbial hot seat right now. So I want to play a quick game real quick. DJ, I'm going to start with you on this one. If you had to give me another coach that you say doesn't make it through the year, who's got the hottest seat in the NFL right now?
I got to go with Todd Bowles. I mean, he had some pretty big expectations coming in there in New York. They thought that he was going to be a great mind for this team. And it just hasn't played out for them. I don't know if it's really his fault or if it's just the Jets being the Jets. But you can tell that fans are starting to get disappointed with him. And it makes sense. I mean, they haven't won a game since they played the Colts back in, I think that was in October. Yeah, they have not won a game since October. So it's understandable that Jets fans are going to be angry at him. Whenever you get angry, usually you put your frustrations on the head coach. I wouldn't be surprised if he's out of New York before the end of the season.
What about you, Francesco? Which head coach currently employed is no longer employed by the time the season ends?
Well, now that DJ took my Todd Bowles one, I'm going to go with somebody else, Marvin Lewis for the Bengals. I don't think that it's necessarily he's done anything horribly wrong with that team, but he's just been there for so long, and it feels like he's run his course there. I think that if they really want to get that team going, they need a fresh start. They need to get someone new, somebody younger, somebody who can really rejuvenate that team.
See, I tend to disagree with you on that one, only because of the track record that the Bengals have shown. I think if you look at this season for the Bengals, they started off really hot, and really their biggest issue has just been plagued with injuries, which unfortunately is out of the head coach's control. And if there's one thing we've seen with this Bengals organization over the years is that they are extremely loyal to Marvin Lewis and to people who have been there a long time. So he's been there 15 years at least, hasn't won a playoff game. They still have kept him around. I have a hard time imagining that this is the final straw for the Bengals. I still think he's there one more year, but definitely something needs to change in Cincinnati. I don't necessarily know if it's Marvin Lewis just yet. I'll give you another head coach before we move on here. I'm going to go Sean McDermott for the Bills on this one. I think obviously he just drafts Josh Allen, so maybe he gets one more year. But after the year the Bills have had, he's just been absolutely pitiful. I don't see him as the coach that the Bills need to take them to the next level. I don't see him being there long term. What do you guys think about Sean McDermott?
I actually kind of disagree with that one. I like Sean McDermott. I think that last year is a fluke year, and people realize that. they made some questionable decisions. I know we already lambasted them earlier this year for going with Nathan Peterman and trading Tyrod Taylor away. But I think that whenever you look at their expectations for the year, they've actually kind of exceeded them. They're 4-8 right now, which is by no means good. But I'm sure there are a lot of people that were predicting them to be 0-12 at this point. So if you take it with that kind of grain of salt, then you can perhaps make a justification for it. You know, they had wins against the Jets and the Jags. They were just one touchdown catch away from Charles Clay from beating the Dolphins. And they have another winnable game this week against the Jets, and other games against the Lions and Dolphins again. So I think maybe there's a chance that the Bills finish 7-9 or something, which would be, I think, pretty impressive whenever you're talking about the cards they were dealt with this year.
All right, and moving on now to our second biggest story this week in the NFL, and has to deal with former Kansas City Chiefs running back Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, who had that phenomenal rookie year last year, started off this season on the same track, was big reason for the Chiefs' offense being as explosive as it was. But a video surfaces from February of earlier this year, Kareem Hunt engaged in some sort of domestic violence act, assaults a 19-year-old woman, kicks her in the face, and as soon as that video was surfaced, he was quickly released from the Kansas City Chiefs. He's now officially cleared waivers and is a free agent, and most likely will never see another NFL team. DJ, want to go to you. What was your reaction to the whole Kareem Hunt situation?
I'm surprised the Redskins didn't pick him up.
I know. I was saying that. I was saying, unfortunately, as a joke, because they picked up Reuben Foster, but I think even the Redskins were smart enough to know if this one actually had video evidence.
Good move to avoid that one, Skins. Yeah, I mean, why is it so hard to just be a good person in the NFL? I mean, it seems like we have these things pretty much every year. And, we got 2 in 2 weeks here with Reuben Foster and Kareem Hunt. What culture is there in the NFL that is just, promotes this type of thing? It's nice to see that for once someone's actually getting punished for it. Because, you go all the way back to Ray Rice. Initially, he had like a 2-game suspension for it before they finally brought the hammer down. And so, good move by the Chiefs there to kick him off the team. I think there's a good chance that even though he's talented, he will never see the NFL again. Which, I mean, that's your punishment. If you're going to go out there and brutalize a woman, then that should happen to you.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily agree with you in the sense that the NFL is the reason that this culture is being fostered. I think it's something that's they've been taught way before they got into the NFL. I don't necessarily think it's the NFL that is causing the problem. But nonetheless, Francesco, let me go to you. What was your reaction to the Kareem Hunt thing? And do you think he ever sees the field in the NFL again?
I do think the Chiefs cutting him was the right move, though I think it may have been for the wrong reasons, because I'm pretty sure Kansas City knew to some extent about what happened. And it seems like this move may be one of those times where a team's trying to save their own butt, just like quickly getting rid of this player. I agree that he's going to be off the field for, probably a pretty long time. I think one thing that gives him a little bit of hope is that he's a really young guy, so he can, probably face his punishment, go through suspension for, about a year or two probably. Then after a while, if he's proved that he has changed, he has enough time for a team to finally take another chance on him, and he's young enough that he could, he wouldn't be way past his prime. So it would definitely take a lot, but I don't think it's safe to say that he will never see the field again, because he does have a lot of time to try to correct himself.
I mean, I don't know, man, because I feel like there's been a lot of other stuff that has also come out recently about him being violent in the club and attacking people. So it doesn't seem as if this was a one-off really bad decision. I think this is a habitual behavioral problem that he has, and for that reason, I don't think he'll ever see the field again. But you also brought up a really good point, was that the video came from February, and it is now December, and we're hearing about this. So that's a 10-month gap. You have to believe that within those 10 months that the Chiefs or somebody in the NFL had to know about it. It was TMZ that ultimately broke the story, which is a problem in its own right. So, DJ, what do you think? Do you think the Chiefs knew about this situation, or were they finding out with the rest of the world?
I think that they had to have known about it. And like I said, that's one of my problems with the NFL. It seems, I know I mentioned it last week with Reuben Foster, but it applies here again. If you're talented, you can do stuff like this and pretty much get away with it. And now that we have the video evidence, it's time to wash the hands clean of the guy. But it's kind of sickening to see that this stuff can happen and people don't get punished for it.
Yeah, it's almost if they were saying, well, this is really bad, but as long as nobody else knows about it, we're just going to keep you here.
Absolutely.
Which is obviously not the right call here. So I'm glad the Chiefs cut him. It was definitely the right move for the Chiefs. I don't think Kareem Hunt, for as talented a player as he has no right to be on the NFL ever again, and I don't think he will. So unfortunate situation all around, but it's time to
even
move
more
forward.
glad no one picked him up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everyone kind of realized that that's a real bad PR move to pick up him, despite how talented he is. It doesn't matter. Shouldn't matter anyway. But we're going to take our first break here on 4th and Long. When we come back, we're going to do our official playoff predictions. We're going to recap Week 13 and give our official predictions for Week 14. You're listening to the final episode of 4th and Long this semester on Com Radio, and we will be right back.
Welcome back to 4th and Long with DJ Bauer and Jason Marcus on Com Radio.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the final episode of 4th and Long here on Com Radio for the semester. I'm your host, Jason Marcus, alongside me, Francesco DeFalco and DJ Bauer, and we are talking Week 13 in the NFL. There are some big games that happened this past week, but the first one I want to talk about here is the Monday Night Football game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Redskins. This was a huge matchup for both teams. Philadelphia Eagles have not looked the same since winning the Super Bowl in February, but now come off a 2-game win streak. However, the Washington Redskins, on the other hand, seem to have the opposite story. Looked pretty good for most of the year. You have an injury to Alex Smith. You're forced to start Colt McCoy. He gets hurt in the middle of this game, breaks his fibula, and in comes Mark Sanchez to lead the Redskins for the rest of the year. The Sanchez, who wasn't on the roster 10 days ago, now is forced to lead the division-leading Washington Redskins for the rest of the year. DJ, I'm going to go to you. What was your reaction to the Monday Night Football game, and where do both of these teams go from here?
Well, this was absolutely a huge game because in the NFL, everything is about momentum, and you could see the momentum shift in this game here. Because Redskins now on a 3-game losing streak. They've lost 4 of their last 5. Alex Smith and Colt McCoy both out for the year. They need a quarterback. Mark Sanchez isn't the answer, obviously. They just got Josh Johnson, but that's not the answer, obviously. I'm thinking that the Redskins are pretty much done for the year here. So now the division is between the Cowboys and the Eagles. And obviously the Cowboys have had this massive spurt here where they've just been on a tear. They look very likely that they're going to win the division. But then we have a huge game this week in which the Eagles are going to play them. So basically the NFC East is at a crossroads right now. And 2 weeks in a row, there are going to be massive games with the Eagles in them that kind of decide the shape of this division. So it'll be interesting to look and see how this division plays out for the rest of the year.
And Francesco, what about you? Obviously, you had an invested interest in this game, being a New York Giants fan. 2 NFC East teams going at each other. What did you see from this game?
Yeah, well, my investment kind of went out the window when the Giants gave Saquon 5 carries against the Eagles. but that's just besides the point. The Eagles clearly, they knew that this was a weak division this year. It was really open to anyone going into it. The Redskins, were coming out of the gate hot, and I don't think anyone can really blame them for, fumbling now that they lost their starting quarterback and then their backup quarterback. The Eagles, they knew that they had a chance here to capitalize, and, they succeeded, and now they have to look forward to trying to make a run and trying to, take over the division because the wild card probably won't be enough. And they have some tough games ahead of them. They have the Texans, they have the Rams. They knew that this was a must-win game right here, and they capitalized. And like DJ said, they were trying to ride out the momentum.
Yeah, so definitely many consider that game an upset win for the Eagles, but there were definitely a lot of other upsets that happened this week. We already talked about the Cardinals getting the big win over the Packers that ended up being the last game in Mike McCarthy's career. But we also saw an upset win on Thursday night, the very first game of this week. The Dallas Cowboys get a big win over the New Orleans Saints, snap the New Orleans Saints' 10-game winning streak. Now the question is, are the Saints for real? Are the Cowboys for real? Is this a fluke? DJ, what did you make of that game?
All right. This is an outlier of a game, I think. The Saints are still one of the best teams in the NFL. Everybody has their down days occasionally. And I'll give credit to Dallas. They have a very good defense. I believe they now have the number 2 defense in the NFL. And that shows they were able to hold Drew Brees and that high-powered offense to just 10 points, which I don't think any other team has been able to do that this year. So kudos to Dallas. They're definitely trending up in the right direction, and it helps it. For once, their offense is starting to look okay with Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott starting to get hot. Amari Cooper looking like it was a pretty good trade. Saints, I don't think this loss is going to hang over their heads too badly because, they're still in the driver's seat for the NFC South. If they win out and perhaps the Rams lose a game somewhere, they'll still get the number 1 seed in the NFC. I think the Saints just have to shrug this one off and look at it as a fluke and, pick up their tails and move on to next week.
What about you, Francesco? Was this a Saints collapse or the Cowboys for real?
No, the Saints have 5 primetime games this year. They just have been under so much pressure this season. One of these games are just bound to happen. There's no way you could keep up that kind of intensity all season and not let one slip up away from you. I definitely think the Saints are still for real. I definitely think that they're going to be, probably in my opinion, the favorites going into the playoffs. The Cowboys, as much as I hate to say this, they have been looking good. And I would, say that they're probably the best team in the East right now. And as weak of a division as the East is, I think the Cowboys are the type of team that may be able to make a little splash in the playoffs, if anything.
Now going on to another game here where we had an upset. Francesco's team, the New York Giants, got a big surprise win over the Chicago Bears in overtime this week. I don't think anybody had the Giants beating the Bears this week, but somehow they pulled it off here. So, Francesco, what did you see from the Giants this week that you haven't seen in previous weeks?
Well, I mean, one thing here that we have to keep in mind is that Mitch Trubisky wasn't playing.
That's true.
And while this was obviously a game that turned out a lot different than normal, a lot of these Giants games this season have been, I didn't see a lot that was different. What I saw was a team coming out of the gate, making moves, struggling on offense, but just a couple of things just switch it the other way. They have been successful in small spurts with turnovers over the season, and this was a big one. Ogletree with 2 picks, one of them he returned. Obviously, we had the trick play, Odell Beckham, more than 40-yard pass for a touchdown. He now has 2 40 or more yard passes. Eli Manning has 0 this season. So there's that.
So are you saying that Odell Beckham should start at quarterback?
I'm saying you should be in the conversation. But
poor Davis Webb.
No, but nearing the end of it, the Giants defense, they haven't been really able to close out games this year, and we saw that with how they, let up this late drive that led the game into overtime. Luckily for me, they were able to clutch it out and get the win, but I just saw a lot of common themes. I think that this win is good because it's how wins like this establish a culture going the next year. So.
And then the last game from this past week that I want to talk about was the explosive Sunday Night Football matchup between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Los Angeles Chargers.
Don't even
excuse
get me
me.
started on
But
this
DJ,
one.
I'm going to get you started on this one. So tell me about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the LA Chargers. Steelers looked like they were dominating the entire first half, and then the scripts flipped on the second half, and Chargers got a big 33-30 win here. What happened in the second half to the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, just a little visualization here. At one point near the very end of the first half here, ESPN gave the Steelers a 96.5% chance to win this game. So they couldn't stop them. I don't know how you can look dominant in one half and then just completely drop the ball in the second half. Not only do you let them get 2 touchdowns in a row, but you also let them get 2 2-point conversions in a row. It's ridiculous. And don't even get me started on how the fact that they put a linebacker on Keenan Allen, the guy who has been one of the best receivers in the league for the Chargers for the past couple years here. They made that mistake last year. Remember Rob Gronkowski whenever the Patriots came to Pittsburgh? What did they do? They put the little guy on him. You can't do that. You need to double-team him every time. You can't put a linebacker on Keenan Allen. I have no idea what the Steelers were thinking. And then on that final play there on the field goal that won the game for them, it's just pathetic. Jump off sides 3 times. I mean, how many chances are you going to get? First one he missed, and that's the kicker's fault on that one. You could have won the game if you had just stayed on your own side of the field. Second one, a little bit more understandable. Maybe they were able to get the block because they were offsides. Third one goes through, and guess what? You're offsides yet again. Artie Burns has been pathetic. This entire secondary has been pathetic for the Steelers. I just needed to get that out of my system there. I'm not happy with this game.
Yeah, well, before DJ burns down the studio here, we're going to take another break. But when we come back, we're going to give our official predictions for all the Week 14 games in the NFL, as well as our bold predictions. So you're listening to 4th and Long on Com Radio, and we will be right back.
You're listening to 4th and Long with DJ Bauer and Jason Marcus here on Com Radio.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fourth and Long for the final time this semester. I'm your host, Jason Marcus, alongside me, Francesco DeFalco and DJ Bauer, and we are talking Week 14 in the NFL, and it all kicks off tomorrow night at 8:20 p.m. with an AFC South divisional matchup between the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Tennessee Titans, a barn burner of a matchup on prime time. We are now going to go through the entire matchups for Week 14 and give our official predictions, starting with you, DJ. Who gets the big win on Thursday night?
I don't know why they bother putting these teams in prime time, because every time they play, the game is boring to watch. Every single time. Like for the past 3 times in a row. No one wants to watch the Titans and Jaguars play, so why put it in prime time? The result of this game doesn't matter. I guess I'll go with Jacksonville just to end that 3-game losing streak, but who cares?
Francesco, what about you? Jacksonville or Tennessee?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard to pick games like this because you just see so much disappointment across the board. I think that the Titans are a little bit of the better team, and I think that they're going to be the team that could really try to make a push in the South, competing with the Texans. So I'm going to go with the Titans on this one.
I'm also going with the Titans on this one, too. I don't think either of these teams will make the playoffs, but I think the Jaguars are on far bigger of a downhill slide. I think the Titans have at least shown at some points in the season that they're able to contend. So I'm going to go with Tennessee, plus they have the at-home advantage. I'm giving the win to the Titans on this one. Up next, we have the Carolina Panthers at the Cleveland Browns. Carolina Panthers have been on another team on a really big downward slide here. Cleveland Browns seem to be somewhat on an uphill trajectory, although they lost to Houston, which is understandable. But who wins this one, DJ?
I'll go with Carolina here just to end the slide. I know it hasn't been good. They were 6-2 at one point. They're 6-6. That's always a terrible thing to happen. My thing here is if they lose this game, I know that the Browns are not the scapegoat for total futility anymore, but if you lose to the Browns, that's pretty much the signifying of the end here. So this is absolutely a must-win game for Carolina here. I think they get the win. They get back on track. I'll go Panthers.
What about you, Francesco? Panthers or Browns?
Yeah, I mean, last week was a rough one for Cam Newton. He threw, I believe, 5 interceptions, something like that. But, you know, it was a rough game for him. But I just think with guys like McCaffrey and, a few players on that team that have been performing so well, I think all it will take is for Cam to, kind of turn down the turnovers a little bit. And I think that this game is kind of in the bag for them. Even though I think Cleveland will give them a tough time, I think that Carolina's going to pull out on this one.
Now, this one's tough for me because I actually think Carolina's the better team, but I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns to win this game here. I think momentum is on the Browns' side. I think there's more hope in that locker room. For some reason, the past couple of weeks, Carolina just can't find a reason to put it together, and I have no reason to believe that they find a way to put it together this week. So I'm actually going to pick the Browns to get the win here. Baltimore Ravens at the Kansas City Chiefs. Lamar Jackson is 3-0 since coming in as the starter for the Ravens, but of course they face a hot Chiefs offense. DJ, who gets the win?
I think this is going to be a fun game, and the fun thing that's going to be see how Baltimore's defense handles Patrick Mahomes in that high-flying Chiefs offense. Chiefs looked a little bit shaky last week. We thought perhaps it was going to be a blowout against Oakland, and Oakland kept it close like often happens in divisional games. I'll still give them the benefit of the doubt, though. I'm going to go Chiefs.
What about you, Francesco? Chiefs or Ravens?
Can Charkandrick West come, right back into it and try to, fill in that spot that Hunt, left for the Chiefs? I don't know. You know what? I'm going to give my upset card on this one. I think Lamar Jackson riding the hot hand, the team's rallying behind him. I think this may be an upset, and I think the Ravens might take this one.
See, I think this will be a fun game too, but I'm not going to bet against the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to win this one. Pat Mahomes has been too good this year. You throw 6 touchdowns against the Raiders or something like that. So I think momentum's going to continue here. I think Lamar Jackson still has a good game. I just don't think the Ravens defense is going to be able to stop Pat Mahomes, so I'm going Chiefs. Up next, Indianapolis Colts at the Houston Texans, another AFC South matchup. DJ, who gets the win?
This is going to be a game to watch here, because Texans have been absolutely on fire lately. Started 0-3, are 9-3 now. Colts, they were looking really good, and then they kind of had a stinker last week against Jacksonville when they couldn't put any points on the board. I think they're going to have a nice bounce-back week here against the Texans. I don't think they're going to get the win. I think Houston's going to pull this one out, but I think this is going to be one of the best games to watch here in Week 14.
Francesco, which AFC South team walks out of this one with a win?
I agree. This is going to be a great game. I think the Colts have been a team that have been showing flashes of what they could possibly do, and they've been looking all right, and they're going to give the Texans, a hard time, but I think that Texans win streak is just too great right now, and I think that whole team's just performing too well to let this game slip away. So I'm going Texans.
I think we're going 3 for 3 on this one here. Should be a fun one, but momentum is firmly on the Texans side. I'm also going Houston to get the big win here at home. Up next, the New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins. A win here for the Patriots will mark the 10th consecutive year in a row that they will have won the AFC East, one of 2 professional sports teams out of the Big Four to have done such a feat. So history on the line here, DJ. Do the Patriots make it 10 years in a row?
I don't know if this is actually a bold prediction, but I'm going to say no for right now. They will do that eventually, just not in this game. I'm picking the Dolphins to win this one. Over the past 5 years, 4 of the games that have been played in Miami, the Dolphins have won. I like them to do it again. They seem to have New England's number here in the winter months in Hard Rock Stadium, so I'm going to pick the Dolphins to get the upset and keep themselves in the playoff hunt.
What about you, Francesco? Do you agree with DJ? Is this an upset in the making?
Yeah, I agree with DJ. I think the Dolphins, he's right by saying the Dolphins kind of have the Patriots' number in games like these. And, while, history on the line may be on this game, the Patriots have never really been a team that have cared too much about stuff like that. They're going to be focused trying to get the win, but, I think the Dolphins may, pull out of this one like they normally do, so I'm going with them.
I'm all going with the Patriots here. I'm not picking the Dolphins to beat Tom Brady. I don't care what history says. It's Tom Brady, and it's the Miami Dolphins. Patriots are going to win this game, clinch the AFC East 10 years in a row. Historic landmark, and just another notch on the resume for Tom Brady. New York Giants at the Washington Redskins. Suddenly, this matchup has a lot more context than it used to do. DJ, do the Giants continue and make it 2 in a row?
Yes, I think they do. They're not going to get, that complete win streak to end the season like Odell Beckham was saying that they would. But I do like them to win this game because the Redskins are in disarray right now. Mark Sanchez is their starting quarterback, which is never a good thing. I like the Giants to come out here and pull out a win in Washington and get to 5-8. And, hey, if they get a little bit of help from the Cowboys-Eagles game, then maybe they are still alive. Who knows?
Francesco, what about you? Obviously, you have an invested interest in this game. Which way do you see this going?
I think it's been 3 straight years that the Giants and the Redskins have split their series together, 1 win each. And, as disappointing as the Giants have been this season, they're playing against a third-string quarterback who has barely touched, a football in an actual game in a long, long time. They're going to be riding momentum off after that Bears win. I think this one could be a Giants win.
I think this is going to be the Saquon Barkley show. I think the Washington Redskins won't win another game all year with Mark Sanchez at the starting quarterback. They don't really have that great of a running. Adrian Peterson, he had that 90-yard run against the Eagles, but other than that, was still held for under 100 yards for the entire game. So really no run game, no passing game. Defense, you got to stop Saquon Barkley, which is easier said than done. I like the Giants in this one. Up next, we have the New Orleans Saints at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The New Orleans Saints have 2 losses all year. One of them came this past week against the Dallas Cowboys in a huge Thursday Night Football upset, and the other one came in Week 1 in which the Saints lost to the Buccaneers when Ryan Fitzpatrick threw for 4 touchdowns against the Buccaneers. Ryan Fitzpatrick no longer starting for Tampa Bay in this one. Can the Buccaneers sweep the series against potentially the hottest team in the NFL?
I don't think they're going to, but I do think they're going to put up a good fight. Since Jameis Winston came in 2 weeks ago, he's actually looked really good. Almost a perfect passer rating in both of these past outings here against the Niners and the Panthers. So I think that the Buccaneers are going to put up a good fight here against the Saints, but I like the Saints to come back from that bad loss last week against Dallas and have another offensive explosion. I'm going to go with New Orleans in this one.
Francesco, what about you? Do the Buccaneers sweep the series?
I think it's rare that the Saints let up a really meaningful divisional game. And I think, as each week goes by, that Week 1 loss to the Buccaneers just makes less and less sense. I do agree that Jameis Winston has looked better, and I don't think this is going to be a blowout or anything, like it was against the Bengals or something, but I do think the Saints are going to pull this one out.
I agree with Francesco on this one. I think the Saints are going to win this. I don't see them losing 2 games in a row. I don't see the Buccaneers pulling off the Fitz magic that they had in the first week, literally and figuratively. So Saints are going to win this one and have a nice bounce-back game. Atlanta Falcons at the Green Bay Packers. Both of these teams underperforming, to say the least, struggling mightily. Somebody's got to win. I guess they could tie, but stranger things have happened.
College football.
Yeah, stranger things have happened, but who gets the win in Green Bay?
I'm going to go with the Falcons here. Even though this has been a very disappointing season for the Falcons, I know the Super Bowl's in their home stadium. A lot of people thought maybe the Falcons will be the first team to play in their Super Bowl home stadium. Not the case this year, but I do like them to get the win here, just because the Packers are in disarray right now with McCarthy being fired. I don't think Joe Philbin's going to do anything special for this team to get them a win here. They lost to the Cardinals at home last week. I think they'll do it again to the Falcons.
Francesco, what about you? Do the Packers get a win here in the first game without Mike McCarthy in a very long time?
Yeah, no, I don't think that. While I think they'll be better off without McCarthy, I just think that there's too much disarray right now for them to be able to pull this one out. I think, while the Falcons have been disappointing this season, I think it's always kind of dangerous to pick another team over them just because they have such an explosive offense, and I think we're going to see that this Sunday.
For as good as Matt Ryan has been statistically all year, the Falcons as a whole have been absolutely dreadful, specifically on defense. Now they go to Green Bay to face Aaron Rodgers. I know Mike McCarthy is no longer the head coach there. It's Joe Philbin's first game as interim head coach, but I actually like the Packers to win this game. I think this firing on Mike McCarthy more than anything might actually rejuvenate the Packers offense and kind of give them a new lease on life. So I'll actually take the Packers to get a win here at home. New York Jets at the Buffalo Bills. Not much to say about this one. Neither team is good. Neither team's going to make the playoffs. There's nothing riding on this one except who doesn't want to be in the last. But who wins?
Actually, I'm going to have some stuff to say about this one.
Okay, go for it.
Josh Allen has looked pretty good since he came back.
That's true. Josh Allen versus Sam Darnold, two rookie quarterbacks.
Right, assuming Sam Darnold's healthy for this one. I'm liking what Josh Allen is doing. He had a pretty good start at the beginning of the year, had a great game against the Vikings, and then he put up some solid performances here against Jacksonville and Miami. So I like them to do it again. Bills get to 5-8 on the season. Josh Allen has a good game. I'll go Buffs.
Yeah, I'm going the Buffalo Bills also. I think that Josh Allen has been looking good these past couple weeks. And, like a lot of these games this week, I've noticed it's just been disappointment versus disappointment. And I also would kind of like to see Todd Bowles, as much as I don't like anyone being out of the job, I would kind of like to see the Jets find somebody else this offseason. So I am kind of rooting for the Bills, and I do think that they're good enough to take this one from the Jets.
For as down as I've been on the Buffalo Bills all year, and I don't think they're very good at all. I think Sean McDermott is an awful head coach. I do think they're going to get the win here. I think between Josh Allen, LaShawn McCoy, that defense, there's just more talent on that roster. They're playing better. So I'm going to go Bills here. Cincinnati Bengals at the Los Angeles Chargers. Jeff Driscoll makes his second start in the NFL, but can he beat the hot LA Chargers?
Here, my friend, might be the biggest beatdown of the week. Worst defense in the NFL going up against one of the best offenses in the NFL. Terrible offense of the Bengals with no A.J. Green and no Andy Dalton going up against a very stout Chargers defense. Gee, I wonder who's going to win this one. It's also a home game for Los Angeles, so I would be absolutely shocked if the Chargers do not win this game by at least 15.
Is there really such thing as a home game for the Chargers at this
I guess
point?
that's fair. That's a fair point. But still, this is a talented team. They're 9-3. They beat my Steelers last week. They have a good chance to take over the AFC West division from the Chiefs because they'll play them again sometime later this year. I'm going to go Chargers.
Yeah, for me, there's not really that much to say about it. You're going in with a really explosive team right now going up against a team that has really just not been performing as of recently. I think the Chargers are just way too good to let this game slip away from them, so I'm going with the Chargers in a pretty much beatdown.
Denver Broncos. Chargers are going to win that game. Nothing more to say about that. Denver Broncos at the San Francisco 49ers. Emmanuel Sanders placed on IR. Demaryius Thomas traded away earlier this year, so you expect to see Cortland Sutton, Deshaun Hamilton have a big role here with the Broncos going forward. Is it enough to get them the win?
I think it is. Cortland Sutton's a talented guy, and I think that Hamilton's a guy that's going to step up as well. They're playing the 49ers, who, as we know, have not been very good this year. One of two teams already eliminated from the postseason. And Denver's been looking hot. They beat Los Angeles a couple weeks ago, and then they beat Pittsburgh, and now they beat Cincinnati. Let's ride them to a 4-game win streak. Go Broncos.
Yeah, I think the Broncos are one of those teams that their record doesn't really show what type of team they could be. I think Case Keenum isn't really the guy that will bring them over the edge, but he's the type of guy that will perform in games like these. I think that while they're out for their, two receivers that were starting at the beginning of the season, I think Cortland Sutton's a really, really talented guy, and I think he can fill that hole that Sanders, left. And I think I'm going to give it to the Broncos on this one.
I, too, am going with the Denver Broncos here. San Francisco 49ers have been struggling all season, and I have no reason to believe that they'll be able to step it up for this one. All right, Eagles at Cowboys for first place in the NFC East. I don't know if anyone would have thought I'd say that if you asked them a couple weeks ago, but nonetheless, here we are. DJ, who walks out of as the winner out of this one?
You're going to like this one. I'm picking the Eagles.
All right.
Just because I think they realize how dire of a situation it is right now. If they lose this game, I would say that the NFC East is pretty much wrapped up. Almost guaranteed to beat the Cowboys because they've got the sweep, the head-to-head sweep over the Eagles, if that's the case. I'm going to say Eagles step up here and avenge their primetime loss a couple weeks ago. I'm going Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with the Eagles with this one also. I think they know that they're not going to get, that division title by beating, the Rams and the Texans. So it's a game like this that they have to win, so I'm giving it to them.
Yeah, I think most people are looking at this game and going the Cowboys are the far superior team if you just look at it from this year. But I'm going with the Eagles on this one. I just feel something here. I don't think the Cowboys collapse in big moments against the Eagles. They've shown that throughout their history. So I'm going to go with the Eagles on this one. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Oakland Raiders. DJ, who you got?
Remember last week whenever we said that it was going to be a blowout, that the Chiefs were going to beat the Raiders? This week, I'm not going to call a blowout here. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think, but I am going to go with the Steelers. They're angry coming off the loss. I'm going to go with my home team.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those games where it's just a far superior team against a team that has just really struggled. I'm giving it to the Steelers on this one.
Steelers are going to win this one pretty handily. Not much more to say about that. It's going to be a nice bounce-back game for them, despite not having James Conner. Detroit Lions at Arizona Cardinals.
Detroit, who cares?
Francesca, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, both teams, again, disappointment versus disappointment, but I think Matt Stafford's, a quarterback that could pull out a game like this.
This could be a close one for all the wrong reasons, but I'm also going Detroit to win this one, too. I think they're the more superior roster. Sunday Night Football is the Los Angeles Rams at the Chicago Bears. Hopefully Mitchell Trubisky will be back for this one, so it should be a good one. DJ, who gets the win?
This is going to be a fun game, especially seeing the best defense in the NFL going up against arguably the best offense in the NFL. That's going to be a good matchup. I'm going to go with the Rams on this one just because I think that they're the better team, but I do think it is going to be a close game.
Yeah, I think Chicago's going to try to bounce back after last week and try to make it a game, but I just think the Rams are too far superior to let a game like this slip away.
I agree. 3 for 3 on this one. Rams are going to get a big road win here. They're too explosive. The Bears just dropped one to the New York Giants. Still would be a good game, but I think the Rams are going to win it. And then the final matchup for Week 14 in the NFL, Monday Night Football, Minnesota Vikings at Seattle Seahawks. Who gets the win, DJ?
This is going to be a fun game to watch for sure. Remember going into the season, a lot of people were predicting the Seahawks to be one of the worst teams in the NFC. They're 7-5, and they have a great chance to be 8-5 here with the win. I think they will get the win and inch closer and closer to getting a wild card berth.
Francesco, what about you?
Yeah, I think this was really supposed to be kind of a rebuilding year for the Seahawks, and it's really turned out positively for them. I think I'm going to give it to them. I think that the Seahawks have just been a better team all around. I think with Bobby Wagner, after that type of performance he had last week, he can stuff like that will help them win this game.
I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings on this one here. I think this will be a good bounce-back game for them as well. I think they're going to be explosive on offense, and I don't think the Seahawks defense is going to be able to contain them. So I'm going Vikings on this one. That is the last matchup for Week 14, but before we sign off for the last time this semester, of course, you know what's coming next. It is 4th and Long, which means on 4th and Long, we just go for it. We're going for our bold predictions. DJ, starting with you.
All right, I talked about Josh Allen looking really good so far. He's going up against a Jets team that I don't think is very good. Here's the boldest prediction I think I've made all year. Josh Allen is going to have a perfect passer rating against the Jets, 158.3.
Francesco, what's your bold prediction for this week?
I've already stated that Odell Beckham Jr. has 2 touchdowns of 40 yards, 2 passing touchdowns of 40 yards or more, and Eli Manning has 0. You know what? Bold prediction. Just like Odell, I'm going to throw it out there. Another one. Odell's going to throw another touchdown, 40 more yards in this game.
And then lastly, before we wrap things up here, my bold prediction, Chargers against the worst defense in the NFL, the Bengals. I think Phillip Rivers has 200 passing yards, Keenan Allen has 200 receiving yards, and if Melvin Gordon plays, he's going to have 200 all-purpose yards in this one. Wow. So that's going to do it for 4th and Long this semester. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us. It's been a pleasure being your host throughout. Thank you guys so much. We will be back with you guys after winter break in January. Take care, everybody, and bye-bye.